was a sort of hostile atmosphere, and I think we were leading, but he just tried to tackle me, and I got the free kick, and he was sort of lying on the ground, and I just told him to get up, as I normally do with the players, which is nothing more than that.
Roy Keane.
Keane shot! Told you the scoring wasn't done with. My goodness. Keane! And the goal for Manchester United!
For him, every match was war.
He was shit. That's not just banter. That's Roy Keane's honest take on 5 players he couldn't stand. This isn't about disagreements or tactical debates. This is about pure, unfiltered hatred, the kind that simmers for years, the kind that ends careers, the kind that makes grown men uncomfortable in television studios. Roy Keane doesn't just criticise players, he prosecutes them. He declares war on everything he thinks is wrong with modern football. And these 5 men became his targets for one simple reason: they broke his code. Let's start with the one that changed everything. The one that proved Roy Keane doesn't forget. Ever. Alfing Haaland wasn't just a rival. He was the man who humiliated Roy Keane at his lowest moment, September 1997. Elland Road, Manchester United against Leeds. Late in the match, Keane tried to foul Haaland near the touchline, but his studs caught the turf wrong. His knee buckled. His ACL snapped like a twig. Career-threatening injury, agonising pain. And as Keane lay on the ground, writhing, what did Haaland do? He stood over him, shouted at him, accused him of faking it to avoid a booking. That moment, that exact moment, planted a seed of rage that would grow for 3.5 years. Think about that. Keane was lying there with a torn ligament. He'd miss an entire season. His career was in jeopardy. And Haaland called him a faker. For someone like Roy Keane, whose entire identity was built on being indestructible, on never showing weakness, that accusation cut deeper than any tackle ever could. It violated the unwritten code. You don't kick a man when he's down. You don't mock his pain. Haaland crossed a line that day, and Keane never forgot it. But here's what separates Keane from other so-called hard men. He didn't lash out immediately. He didn't lose his head. He waited. He rehabbed. He came back stronger. He led Manchester United to the treble in 1999. And all the while, the grudge festered. The humiliation burned. He was waiting for the perfect moment. April 2001. Manchester derby. Haaland was now at Manchester City. The match was nearly over when the ball broke loose in midfield. Haaland moved to play it. Keane moved to destroy him. This wasn't a tackle. This was an execution. Keane raised his studs to knee height and drove them straight into Haaland's right leg with sickening force. He wasn't trying to win the ball. He was trying to hurt him. As Haaland lay on the turf, Keane stood over him, mirroring that moment from 1997, and delivered a verbal tirade before accepting his red card. In his autobiography, Keane admitted everything. He wrote, "I'd waited long enough. I hit him hard. The ball was there, I think. Take that, you see. And don't ever stand over me sneering about fake injuries, premeditated revenge, calculated violence." He waited 3.5 years to deliver that tackle. The admission got him a record fine of £150,000 and a 5-match ban. But Keane showed zero remorse. He wrote, "I didn't wait for Mr. Elleray to show the red card. I turned and walked to the dressing room. Did that tackle end Haaland's career? The truth is complicated. Haaland played a few more times for Norway. He came on as a substitute once or twice, but he never completed another full 90 minutes of professional football in England. His knee was destroyed. Haaland himself said, "It was my last full game in England, so maybe he had something to do with it." That's diplomatic language for what everyone knew. Roy Keane had taken him out, and even years later, Keane felt no guilt. In 2014, over a decade after the incident, he expressed disappointment that Manchester City players didn't attack him after the tackle. He said, "Looking back at it now, I'm disappointed in the other Manchester City players. They didn't jump in to defend their teammate. I know that if someone had done that to a United player, I'd have been right in there. They probably thought he was a prick too. That's Roy Keane. No apologies, no regrets, just cold satisfaction that he got his revenge. Now let's talk about a different kind of hatred. Not physical, but philosophical. Paul Pogba represented everything Roy Keane despises about modern football. Where Keane stood for sacrifice, Pogba stood for self-promotion. Where Keane rejected the spotlight, Pogba danced in it. Where Keane built his legacy on discipline, Pogba built his brand on individuality. For Keane, Pogba wasn't just a bad player. He was a virus infecting Manchester United's soul. Keane called him a baby. He mocked his haircuts, his celebrations, his entire attitude. After one defeat, Keane painted a brutal picture of the dressing room, saying they were so angry after the game, they were throwing their hair gel at each other. Hair gel, not teacups, not boots, hair gel. That one line summarised everything Keane thought was wrong. The old United dressing room under Ferguson was a place of masculine fury. The new one, in Keane's eyes, was a cosmetic vanity project. But Keane wasn't completely irrational. When France won the World Cup in 2018, he said, "I don't mind Pogba dancing now. He's entitled to it. He can do whatever the hell he wants with his hair." See, Keane's code is transactional. You earn the right to be an individual by winning. Pogba won with France, so the celebrations were acceptable. But at Manchester United, Pogba won nothing. So every dance, every haircut, every emoji felt like an insult. Keane identified Pogba as a structural failure. He said, "The big problem for me is Paul Pogba. I don't know how Ole can continue to not pick a £90 million player, but for me, him and Fernandes will never work." Keane argued that Pogba lacked the discipline to play in a midfield too, that the team had to be bent around his weaknesses, that he was a tactical nightmare wrapped in a designer brand. The most damning analysis came during Euro 2020, France versus Switzerland. Pogba played brilliantly for 85 minutes. He scored a sumptuous goal from 30 yards. His passing was world-class. But then, in the 90th minute, he got sloppy. He tried to dribble out of midfield instead of playing it safe. Switzerland dispossessed him, countered, and equalised. France eventually lost on penalties. Keane acknowledged the goal, but immediately pivoted to the error. He said, "This is all part of Paul's character that people love to see, and it's great." But then I'd be looking at the goal they conceded in injury time when he was sloppy in the middle of the park. For Keane, 85 minutes of brilliance didn't matter. The 10 seconds of sloppiness erased everything. That's his philosophy. Reliability trumps genius. A player who scores a screamer but loses the ball in the dying moments is a liability. Football, in Keane's mind, is about risk management. Pogba played it like a game of expression, and that's why Keane hated him. Then there's Harry Maguire, the man who wears the armband Roy Keane once held, the captain of Manchester United. For Keane, this wasn't just a succession. It was an insult. Keane sees the captaincy as sacred. It requires terrorising teammates into better performance. It requires sacrifice and authenticity. Maguire, in Keane's eyes, was a nice guy playing dress-up. November 2021. Maguire had endured a torrid run of form. Manchester United had just lost 5-0 to Liverpool. His defending was a disaster. But then he scored a header for England against Albania and celebrated by sliding on his knees, cupping his hands to his ears like he'd silenced the critics. Keane, watching in the studio, exploded. He said, "He thinks he's shutting the critics up, but I think it's embarrassing. He's been a disgrace the last couple months for Man UTD. He thinks if he scores there, he's going to shut his critics up. Embarrassing. Embarrassing." Keane used that word twice in 15 seconds. He was stripping the moment of any glory. Scoring against Albania, a lower-tier nation, meant nothing. It didn't rectify the disgraceful performances in the Premier League. Keane added, "I'll judge a player on what he does on a football pitch, not what rubbish he comes out with about players sticking together." That rant destroyed Maguire's reputation. It gave permission for everyone else to pile on. Keane had declared Maguire's leadership void. But here's the twist. Keane later admitted he went too far. On the overlap, he said, "I definitely crossed the line. I mocked him a little bit." That admission is incredibly rare. Keane almost never apologises. That he felt the need to walk back the tone suggests he recognised he'd moved from analysis into bullying. But even then, he didn't retract the substance. He still believed Maguire wasn't good enough. Keane also hated Maguire's interviews, the robotic responses, the phrases like, "We go again," and "It's not good enough." Keane saw these scripted apologies as hollow. He wanted raw honesty, not PR speak. He wanted a captain who would come out and call the team crap, who would name names and demand better. Maguire's attempts to protect the dressing room felt to Keane like cowardice. Virgil van Dijk is different. Keane respects his ability. He can't deny Van Dijk is world class, but he despises what he sees as arrogance and complacency. It started in September 2020. Liverpool beat Arsenal 3-1. It was a dominant performance, but they conceded a soft goal. Keane in the studio said, "There's a lot of arrogance coming out of him. They've had their moments defensively where they look a bit sloppy." Van Dijk, in his post-match interview, bristled at the criticism. He dismissed Keane's negativity. That response triggered Keane even more. He felt Van Dijk should accept the criticism, not deflect it. He saw the rejection of the word sloppy as proof that Liverpool believed their own hype. The real explosion came in December 2023. After a 0-0 draw at Anfield where Manchester United played defensively, Van Dijk complained that only one team tried to win. Keane viewed this as a direct insult. He hit back with a nuclear option, saying, "He needs reminding that he is playing for a club that has won one title in 30-odd years." That was brutal. Keane shifted the argument from one match to the entire historical hierarchy. He called Van Dijk arrogant and disrespectful. This reveals Keane's protective instinct. He's allowed to call United a disgrace, but he won't permit a Liverpool player to do it. Van Dijk's sin wasn't the comment itself. It was daring to criticise Manchester United when Liverpool's trophy cabinet was comparatively bare. Finally, Jordan Pickford. Keane's disdain for Pickford is technical, physical, and unrelenting. He simply doesn't believe Pickford is a world-class goalkeeper. He sees him as the embodiment of everything wrong with modern keeping. Too much acting, too much footwork, not enough saving. When presented with statistics defending Pickford's performance, Keane famously said, "I don't need to see the stats. I know he's not a good goalkeeper. We said it before the game, he's not up to it. I don't care. He is not a good goalkeeper. That's the eye test absolute." Keane looks at Pickford and sees a keeper who is jittery. He hates Pickford's frantic energy. He believes a goalkeeper should be a calming, imposing presence, not a chaotic one. The most violent imagery came after a Manchester United versus Everton match. Pickford made a mistake. Keane's reaction was visceral. He said, "I'd be ready to chin him." He suggested that at half-time he would have physically assaulted the goalkeeper. While hyperbolic, it underscores the level of rage incompetence induces in Keane. Keane also criticised Pickford's concentration. After a mix-up with defender Mark Guehi for England, Keane said, "Goalkeepers get bored sometimes. Mind your own business. Let the defender deal with it." He believes Pickford tries to over-involve himself to appear important, which leads to errors. Keane's advice? Keep quiet and do the basics. So there you have it. 5 players, 5 different sins. Haaland violated the code of the pitch by mocking an injured man. Pogba put his brand above the team. Maguire faked leadership without earning it. Van Dijk showed arrogance without the trophies to back it up. Pickford simply isn't good enough, but acts like he is. What ties these 5 hatreds together isn't randomness. It's a pattern. Roy Keane operates as football's judge, jury, and executioner. He's the voice of 1999, the treble-winning mentality, the Ferguson era where weakness got you destroyed in training. Every player he attacks has committed the same fundamental crime. They've failed the standard. They've shown the world that modern football has gone soft. Keane doesn't separate talent from character. He demands both. Pogba had the talent but lacked the discipline. Maguire had the title but lacked the authority. Van Dijk had the success but lacked the humility. Pickford had the position but lacked the presence. And Haaland? He had the audacity to disrespect a wounded warrior. Each one broke a different rule in Keane's code, but the punishment was always the same: public execution. His words carry weight because everyone knows his history. When Keane threatens to chin someone, it's not empty. When he calls someone a disgrace, it stings because he lived by impossible standards himself. He destroyed his own body for Manchester United. He played through pain. He terrorised teammates who didn't match his intensity. Keane's hatred is transactional. Win everything and you can dance, dye your hair, celebrate however you want. But lose, show weakness, act above your station, then you're fair game. And Keane doesn't just criticise, he humiliates. He strips away the PR nonsense and the media training. He says what he thinks fans are screaming at their televisions. The media knows this. Sky Sports and ITV deploy Keane specifically to generate viral moments. The Keane rant is a product. It gets views, clicks, and engagement. But the consistency of his views proves it's not just an act. The volume might be turned up for television, but the signal is real. He genuinely believes the game has been ruined by money, social media, and weak mentalities. As of now, the feuds continue. Haaland will never be forgiven. That's eternal. Pogba has left the Premier League, serving a ban, proving Keane right in many fans' eyes. Maguire has shown resilience, earning a quiet, begrudging respect. Van Dijk remains at the top, still irritating Keane with his calm superiority. Pickford remains England's number one, a constant source of jittery anxiety during tournaments. Roy Keane doesn't just comment on football, he wages war on it. These 5 men weren't just bad in his eyes. They represented the decay of everything he values. From calculated revenge to cultural warfare, Keane made it clear, not all footballers are cut from the cloth he respects, and he'll never stop reminding them of that. Like and subscribe for more on the legends who hate modern football.